overlay.
Yeah.
I totally dig the overlay. You got your topic, you got, who it is and what it is. It's actually really awesome.
I'm trying. And then that way, so they can hear us, they just can't see us, because I feel like when you go live, just to have faces right away is a little bit overwhelming. That's just my opinion, though.
The background looks kind of like Brad's planning board.
Yeah. Well, and that was from last week. I'm being really lazy.
Oh, it's all the same.
It's really planning, writing, and we're always talking about that in general.
Yeah. Villains is one of those boxes, I'm sure.
Exactly. The plant one over in the left corner.
Yes. I don't even know what's going on over there.
I'm sure it's like space planning or something. Like makes me think of it's funny, I used to work at IKEA, and it makes me think of like IKEA room set planning that we did.
It kind of stresses me out.
Right?
It's too much.
It's too much planning. So I know Brad said he was going to be a little bit late. If anybody is here, I mean, I can see that we have 2 viewers, but please leave a comment or a question for our authors.
I love questions.
So I will, we can go ahead and get started. I'm going to throw our fun little banner up here.
Yeah.
Different, because I'm being, like I said, I'm being a little lazy. I didn't make a lot of like fun stuff. So,
this is fun.
I'm going to hide the overlay now. So now it's us. Ta-da!
Hey!
And I am in my husband's office downstairs. So
I was going to say,
his, like, my face, you can see it. It's not in a dark closet like I normally am. It's a little bit crazy because this is his normal like background stuff, but
cool.
I know Brad said he'd be a little bit late. And Tim is not joining us this week. I do want to let you guys know that I have decided that we are not going to be doing this anymore. Not in a bad way. I should say it's just not going to be regularly scheduled. I think we're going to do it more in the future because
let's do it in person. That would be really cool to have like half of the panel, sort of.
Yeah, but I'm not. So let me explain some things.
I'm getting comfortable for this. Hold on, I gotta like adjust.
You're fine. Right. I know. I wish I could move his camera more. Like it's freaking me out because I feel like, but I don't want to like move it too far because he's like got it set up for work and everything. But and the dog just came down with a cat toy. So that's going to be really distracting. But anyways, so our store is not physically open to the public. Like people couldn't come in and browse because I've had a lot of people who want to come in and, I just want to browse. And I'm like, yeah, you want to browse and you want to touch everything, which is fine, but I have to clean it all. So I have to follow you around and clean everything you touch. So I'm not doing that. I have a table at the door and people can come and request things and I bring it up and they can look at that. And then that goes in quarantine for a day. And then I put it back on the shelf. But I would love to do something like this in person. So I'm going to plan on doing things like that. We also have Independent Bookstore Day, which is at the end of April. It was at the end of April. Now it's the end of August. So that would be a chance to do this live. So I feel like we've covered quite a few topics and we've recorded them. We have them on YouTube. We have them on Facebook. So I feel like we could take a break from this because it's also summer, and I feel like a lot of people are going to be doing things on Friday nights at 7.
Maryland is open 5 p.m.
Yes, they are open. Restaurants are open in town. So I figured we would take a break from doing this live this way, and I still want to do virtual events, but I kind of want to do them a little bit more concentrated because, again, I feel like we're almost running out of fun things. So I want to talk to authors one-on-one more, and then also do a like you said, kind of like an in-person thing. So last week, Tim actually had a book come out. I know he's not joining us tonight, but I'm going to talk about his book really quick. He had a book come out, the sequel to his middle grade. The first one is Camp Lenape. I think I'm saying that right. And the sequel is Shadow of Doubt. And he came and we had a tent outside and he just set up and that's where we were. So that was kind of nice because he was outside so people could approach him one-on-one and it wasn't crowded because we have like a kind of a patio area. So we could definitely do that. And again, that's kind of my plan for Independent Bookstore Day is to have all of the authors spread out so you can still socially distance and stuff like that. Cause I'm just very concerned about keeping people safe. So yeah. So, for those of you who don't know who are watching, I see we do have some people joining us. I am Liz from Capricos Books, as it says on my little name plate there, and we have 2 authors joining us. And Brad will be on shortly. He'll be a 3rd author. We have author Heather Carson, and we have author Harry Carpenter. I like that you're both HC names. I just
Yeah, great.
perfect.
The cool initial.
There you go. Brad is Brad Cox, so he's got a C name too. We all have C names, C last names.
Yeah.
So, I don't use my C last name as much as I use other ones, but I have too many last names. But anyways, this is besides the point. So yeah, we kind of talked about last week. We don't have to stick with villains, but it was a topic that we kind of started talking about. And I said, oh, let's save that because we were going to go down this whole thing with villains. Oh, I should say
Yes,
I
we
am
were.
drinking Alecraft. We have so much Alecraft in our fridge right now, and this is the brown. I don't remember. It's a brown Ragnar, maybe. I don't remember what it's called, but it's good. But they have the ginger lager I talked about last week. I said I wasn't gonna like it, and if you watch the video, I think it's really funny because I know for a fact I took a drink of it and I made a face because I thought it was really gross, and then I started just chugging it. It was so good, and I highly recommend the ginger lager if you like it. I don't like ginger, and it was amazing. So,
Nice.
what are you drinking, Heather?
I
Wait, what?
actually just bought a bottle of like Pinot Grigio Prophecy to celebrate my book launch on Tuesday, and then I didn't drink it, so I'm like, oh, well, we'll drink it tonight then.
Yeah, that's awesome. What's the title that launched?
It's the Noceri. Noceri. I'm sorry, it's in Latin, but it's a haunting dystopian tale, book 1. So
Okay,
yeah.
Awesome.
It's been a crazy week.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
What are we drinking, Harry?
Yeah, what do you got?
Strongbow. The
Cider.
old European cider.
So I don't normally drink from our other brewery in town, Independent, but my husband went there and he got a cider, and it is a watermelon cider,
Okay.
and it is definitely interesting. It's not bad. It's just not a normal cider.
I wish mine wouldn't have run away because he just got like a watermelon cucumber type thing from a local brewery, and it was awful. I'm sorry, it was so bad. But I don't know what the 2 flavors would mix. They just don't mix.
It sounds like refreshing, but also not refreshing at all.
Hey. So, sorry, I was going to say, so villains, what was your question on villains?
I wasn't, we were just generally talking about villains and developing that character or characters or idea, and like how hard it is to come up with just a villain, and either creating something or maybe taking a villain from your own life and making that a character and kind of writing your villains that way. And maybe that's what you're writing about, is not just yourself, but like getting it out there to just say that this person. We know that Harry has the Tales from an Ex-Husband, so we know who the villain is, and that's
I wrote the best villain. And he still exists.
a real person. So, just tell us about, anything you want to talk about villain. It doesn't even have to be villain related. Like I said, it could be anything, but
like, what makes a good villain in general?
yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I actually just had this conversation in one of my reader groups, and I was told that villain is not a PC word. It's a very one-dimensional character. Antagonist is better, obviously. Because when you say villain, it brings a connotation like hero versus villain, and then that makes it just flat. Like there's a good guy and a bad guy. The villain needs to have depth, or the antagonist. I'm sorry, we're politically correct here. Antagonist needs to have depth and character, and something likable about him or relatable, I guess. So yeah. I thought that was interesting.
That's interesting. Yes, that's definitely interesting.
Well, when you say villain, I instantly go with Disney.
Yeah.
They've almost cornered the market on hero villain names, because when you think villain, I'm gonna say like antagonist could be the word that's used, but Gaston isn't that bad. There's some likable qualities to the guy. There's like 2 or 3. He can eat 10 dozen eggs. But somebody like Gaston, why does he have staying power? Why do you even why can't the Beast just rip this guy's head off, be done with it, move on? Because you care for Gaston in some kind of way as the bad guy, the same reason that you find Jafar interesting. I'm literally just going to go down the Disney path at this point.
I noticed.
No, here and
They have the best, like, developed villains, in my opinion. Like, at least pop culturally, the best developed. Like, you know who Jafar is, you know Scar, you know the evil queen and Maleficent, and even Maleficent getting that in
The
depth.
whole movie.
And that's what I was gonna say is I think that I have to say I don't feel like there's anything. I mean, it's a very clear hero villain for characters like Jafar and all that. I don't feel like there's anything that I care about. Like, go ahead and rip his head off. But I don't care. I know, and that's just me. But I will say, let's talk about modern Disney, and I agree that they are moving towards this. We want to see these villains have more depth. So they are exploring this whole Maleficent character and saying, like, look, like, she was totally shunned for no reason, kind of thing. Like, she was
chill.
Or what makes a villain.
Yeah, so I like that. Not even just what makes them, but at this, you're right. I mean, that's a good part. But also, again, like you said, humanizing them and saying, like, she was publicly embarrassed because she wasn't invited to this event. And that, like, it all started from there. It was literally just we didn't invite her to the party. So things like that, I think Disney is changing, and you're right, where it is more of an antagonist in that situation. We're learning how those characters are. But like Cruella de Vil, I mean, she didn't do anything good.
She's a horrible human being. She can have her head removed too.
Right? Exactly.
But like, look at like you said with the newer, like, Disney type of characters. Look at who was the villain in Frozen for the duration of the movie. I'm not talking about the surprise, like, aha. But it was Elsa.
Yeah.
The hero was the villain.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's true,
That
and that's
was-
new Disney.
Yeah, that's such an interesting writing point that she was her own antagonist because nobody's causing her problems but her. So it's a very layered self-explorational villain path to take. I thought that was crazy.
So with like my villains and stuff that I write in my books, like I never create. It's funny because you were saying like you write somebody in like your story and stuff, and like I've heard so many writers that like I took that one person I didn't like and I personified them. But like I like to personify an idea, and so that's like the Elsa thing. It was like an idea of that whole like inner conflict becomes you know a villain, and I love that. That's where I think the strongest villains are because it's an idea personified, not a character with certain characteristics that makes him bad, like Gaston, like he was a dick. And then, I mean, but he hunted. He was kind of cool.
But that's the whole thing. You're right in that, like, his was the idea of manliness, and like he embodied everything that was a man to be a right man. And in that case, the idea of a true man versus this beast, like, so I mean, it's weird because it's deep, but it's also pretty like obvious
Beast was
stuff.
a dick too. Beast was terrible too.
But
she
he
should
was
have away
deep.
with the candlestick and been done with it because
Have you guys
Beast was abusive, violent, and
That's true.
everything he was like. Neither one of these guys, like, out of all of the stories, Beauty and the Beast is hands down the worst because it's like you have poop and crap. These are your two choices, Belle. Make your decision. Do you want to be beat on or womanized? Which, well, and whatever else Gaston comes with the package, I guess.
Yeah,
Did
I'm
you
gonna
ever
add.
see the? Oh, sorry, real quick. Did you ever see the meme where they actually discussed like what Belle should have done? Because like 10 years after that was the French Revolution, where the Gaston would have been like a major general, and they would have overthrown her house. Like she really made the wrong choice for the future, but it was good in that moment. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, that kinda
Brad is
sucks.
here. I'm gonna add him to the stream. Just I didn't want to like throw him on camera and like be like, "Woo, things are
Hey.
changing! Yay!" I rearranged things so that there's nothing covering Brad's face this week.
Oh, that's nice. I appreciate that. Can you hear me this week?
Yes,
Okay.
Esquire, sir. I always love that, but I will never not think of Bill and Ted.
Oh, 100%. That's all I can go with. Like, calm down there, Ted Theodore Logan.
where's the alpaca?
Oh, he's here. He's right here.
Pull him back up. He was cool. I like.
There we
looking
go.
at him.
Brad, I know you and I talked earlier. Brad dropped some more books off at the store, so I do have some more signed copies of his book.
Ooh.
So I already told everybody that we're taking a break from this for a while and at least doing and Harry said we should do a live one, and I agree, but that's my plan for August, is to do the independent bookstore day where we have all your fun authors come out and hang out and, like, you know, all that fun stuff. Answer these
Why
questions.
not after that? Why don't whoever wants to hang out afterwards, we just go live, talk about our books
yeah.
and how the day went, and we just have some beer. Maybe we can
All
go to a
right.
local brewery.
There we go. Absolutely. I know they're down for it on the patio. But with, like, as Brad mentioned too, Friday nights, 7:00. That's prime time in the summer. So
With things opening back up, I can't do this every Friday night.
exactly.
Yeah.
What are you drinking tonight, Brad?
I'm having Deer Park water.
Water.
That's
Oh,
good
Deer
water.
Park water. All right. I don't know why I thought you had something else.
No, I'm not
So we are talking about villains, and we were Heather mentioned that is not the PC word anymore, and that we talk about antagonists, because antagonist is a deeper, more developed character than just a villain and a hero, which it makes a lot of sense. I just had never necessarily thought of it that way.
I didn't either until I got like reamed in a reader group. So
That's so crazy. I guess I mean, I kind of understand, but at the same time, I feel like you
Kinda
can
one of the
still
same.
have villains that are like 2D, like they're. So,
Yeah.
like, for example, sorry, Harry, I'm going to use yours as an example. How deep is your character, your I'm going to call them villains in Fubar?
So they're monsters. So if you want to go with the obvious one, they're monsters.
Yes.
Their goal is to eat your face, and that's really it. But the deeper, so that's the main villain, but it gets deeper as you go. Non-spoilery. I've already said that this is going to be a book that's like wrought with PTSD as you get deeper into it, as people just get bumped off. The real villain is very Elsa. It's internal. That's your villain. It's how can you fight yourself to keep moving. So the villain then then grows to become, and you have a villain, which is the monsters and the critters that are trying to eat everybody. And then you have the antagonist, which is multiple layers to that too, but one of them will be the mental well-being of the main characters.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense, and that's just why I feel like that it's good to still use that term, but in a split way. So
Yeah.
thank you for teaching us that, Heather.
it literally happened this week. That's why I thought it was funny, because I think I was it's Indie Fantasy Addicts. Have you heard of that group on Facebook yet?
No.
All right, so it's a reader group, and I kind of been like, because I just published my first fantasy book this week, so I was like, well, let me start learning a little bit more. So I was kind of engaging the group and talking to them, and they, I was like, so tell me about your favorite villains, just whatever. Well, it was a weird question, but then everybody just like, villains are not okay. It is. I was like, oh, okay, I did not know. Now I know. Thank you.
That's so interesting, and it's so funny that they have such strong feelings about that.
I think it's fantasy. It's mostly fantasy. Everybody wants like a more developed character in
That
this.
makes sense.
True.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You know, things aren't black and white, and they shouldn't be.
No.
Well,
When you give your
so that one would be an antagonist, is the protagonist role, more or less. Like that's you go down the path of the antagonist. So that book, when I'll put that out, I'll make sure I publish it before we do our author event. That way I can have it to sell at your store. But that right there, you kind of get the dimensions of what would be the bad guy. It's almost like the reverse roles of Bella and Edward from last week, where you get the other position, but you never get the bad guy's position. Even with Hannibal Lecter, you didn't get his full position. You got it from, depending on who the main character was, but you got, what was it, Jodie Foster was Clarice. You got it from more or less Clarice's point of view in her investigation. You didn't get it from Hannibal's brain in Silence of the Lambs. So this is full-blown, like, the crazy killer is telling you his story. So I think that's a very unique story, that what would be the protagonist becomes the antagonist.
And Max, actually, I wanted to talk to Brad about that. Sorry, Heather, I don't know enough about your books. I'm sorry about that. That's totally my fault. So I can't. So I need you to explain more. I know you've only recently been introduced, but I do know, like, Brad's. I know Brad's, for example. You know, you always describe it as. I mean, you describe it better, and I'm going to butcher it. But basically, you always start with these characters from hell, and so you talk about your villains. I don't want to put words into your mouth.
But none of them are really villains. As a matter of fact, the book is told from first person and third person perspective. Some of it's autobiographical and some of it's not. But my character is the protagonist, and if you really kind of dig into it, I'm also the antagonist. So I'm actually two characters, but you don't really realize that. So I'm kind of this character named Nico. And when I say that, I mean in personality. Like the way I was writing it was basically, had my life gone this way, this is the type of person I would have been, and had I been gone this way, like this is the type of person I would have been. So in personality, it's kind of my character is the protagonist and the antagonist.
But and that's right along the lines. Sorry, I was just gonna say that's right along the lines of us talking about like it being so much deeper. But go ahead, Heather.
Oh, I was just gonna say, forgive me for being new. You said your book was written in first and third. Is your book a memoir or?
It's a fictional book, but they always say like write what you know. So I kind of started off with like this, like developing my autobiographical story, and then I worked that story into a character. So it's kind of like that.
Okay.
There's a lot of Brad in Nico. There you can definitely, when you get that little bit when he does pop back in, before you go through the gauntlet of all the other characters to cycle back to Nico. I am on, I think, chapter 10. I'm getting there. I think I'm about to get to whatever's happening in the Painted Desert. We're there. We're just things are about to pop off, I guess. But it's definitely a very interesting story because you're getting this perspective of a main character, which is, if you didn't know Brad whatsoever, this is just a very unique character. Knowing Brad and knowing his past and what he's done musically and his travels, you can definitely see all of the inspiration in that character. So Nico seems like right now it's written very positively. It seems like this would be the positive path in your life. Whereas your alter ego would be the big bad guy that comes up twirling a mustache to throw a monkey wrench in your plans later. Which, if they don't have a giant mustache, they should.
I don't want to give anything away, but like there's it was like probably 15 to 17 albums at this point. So the idea was to basically take a lot of the album themes and also incorporate them into the book. Like the first album I put out was called Join the Cult. So there's a cult in the book. So if you kind of marry like Dante's Inferno with like Waco, Texas, and all these other things, you get this kind of cool amalgamation, and that ends up being the story.
Very unique. I like it. I'm gonna have to look it up though.
Yes, Children of the Program, and the sequel is Edge of the Fifth Sun.
I'm like looking for a pen. Hold on.
No, it's okay. I'll share the links. I should do that anyway.
Okay.
I will share the links in the comments.
And Brad can always shoot you a link in the group chat anyway. So
Yeah.
Also, Harry, thank you for not only reading it, but trudging through those first 10. I always tell people the first 10 are like really dense, and then it just kind of goes like this.
Dense, I think we need to look at the thesaurus for a bigger word than dense. But what I can say is, like, while at one point I feel like initially it looks like a chore, you're just like, oh my God, thank God I got through another chapter. Okay, I got to get there. Brad said it's gonna hit the fan as soon as I get to this chapter, so I need to get to this point. What I can say is that it doesn't feel like it was all for nothing.
Okay.
It feels like unfortunately, we were talking about this a while back, but like, how much detail do you need in a book to make it successful? You have enough detail because you're not telling, like, if you went into detail with Nico for 10 chapters, I'm done, and your book is going to be firewood. But you went into detail. You had a dozen characters and setting to talk about. You had to talk about hell. You had to talk about growing, you had Nico, and then you sidebarred to Ireland, and then you sidebar it again to like Chicago, and then you sidebar again to this place. So you had all of these different pieces all like dropping in over the course of like 9 to 10 chapters. So, I commend you on juggling all of that.
And then there's
But it's useful. You needed all of that to get to what I consider to be, now I can get into the children of the program. Now I can actually go and, now we can get into the story. I know who these people are. I know what their deal is. Okay, we've all traveled to this painted, sands area. We're in the desert. Now we can get started. Now I'm ready. Now I don't have to like pepper in pieces of characters. So it's very interesting the way that you had it developed. So I will let you know as I finish it. But I did make it to 10.
That's impressive. Yeah.
So yeah, so I was gonna say though, the villain thing. So you were saying, so the memoir, it was personal experience. You had the villain going back and forth, internal, like we were talking about with Elsa. Well, I mean, I'm sorry to regulate that to a Disney show, but we're Disney. So
Disney makes sense. We understand Disney.
Exactly.
Oh, was it? So it was the internal villain? Is what you're saying? Sorry, if I'm not close enough.
No, it's okay. Repeat your question.
I was just wondering, your villain in the story it was the internal villain, is what you're saying? Like the internal.
It's still a different character. It's not me, but I kind of based him off. Had I gone this direction in my life, this is what I could have actually ended up becoming, based off kind of like some of the things that I went through and did. So I modeled that character based off like the darkest part of myself. And Nika is just kind of like the part of myself that you're talking to right now.
I feel like I've heard that a lot. Like people like take either their own darker could have been, or maybe somebody they didn't like and didn't want to emulate or something, and that's the villain. Like they base it off that. So yeah, I think it gives it more depth too, though. Like than just your standard like good and evil versus guy. Like the guy that just destroys the world and he's evil.
Yeah. I'll let you know how it goes once I see the two characters in their yin and yang battle. That does sound interesting once I get past this point.
Has the villain revealed themselves at this point? No, or I don't want to give anything away. So,
I think I'm about to be there because is it the guy that just rolls up on a motorcycle and?
Well, basically,
I figured there's like this Randall Flagg-esque character that just kind of rolls up and he's just like. Probably he's leather clad instead of denim clad, thankfully. But it's just like this rogue badass character that kind of just strolls in. I assume that's going to unfold to be the bad guy, but it's written in a way where you're just like, who's this jackass? What's he doing? What's he think he is? But then it's going to turn out he's going to be the big bad or something. And that if it goes that way, that'll be interesting. But as of right now, that's an interesting character that has just now been introduced for me.
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt really quick. Tim is joining us. So before I threw him on the screen into the chaos. Yay, there we go. He's just sitting here patiently like waiting for us. And I'm just like, okay, I promise I'll add you. Just give me a second.
Sorry.
So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going up late.
We were talking about Heather. Heather corrected us and said that villains. We were saying villains, but villains in at least in the fantasy world is not the PC term. It should be antagonist, and because villains is one-sided, you have heroes and villains, and that's it. Versus the antagonist, that's usually a little deeper. So,
sure. I mean, you've got it's all in optics, I mean, the villain of one story could be the hero of another.
Yes, and that's another thing that we were almost talking of. We were talking about Disney, and of course we went with Disney and how at first Disney was very black and white and everything is, hero, villain, but now they're exploring that, and the idea of Maleficent, where she's normally this evil person, is now in this other story she's actually saved so much.
Pretty chill.
So I haven't seen the second one, I'll admit.
Yeah, like back in the day, Disney would have us believe that a villain was just straight up evil.
Talk about twirling mustache.
That was the story, and not anymore. No.
So, what Tim said, he said, sometimes it's from that perspective who the villain really is. So we'll segue into another big franchise that has kind of like crapped the bed lately, Walking Dead. At any point in time, is Negan really the bad guy? Is the governor really the bad guy? Is Rick the bad guy?
Yeah,
So
without that, when you cross that level of evil, you're just bad. There's no more after that. No redeeming quality.
But you look at it from the perspective of their followers. I'm not going to name names, but people currently in politics, not the governor, but currently in politics, they can do no wrong. So if you look at somebody like the governor or Negan, this is the way it's supposed to be.
American politics, everybody does wrong. Like literally everybody does wrong, and we are not afraid to say that.
No, they're not. They don't do anything wrong, and Twitter's just being mean to them.
I'm
not naming names.
Refill, and it's like really big. So this is gonna be a fun night.
I like it. But not naming names, but it has a lot of similarities to perspective. Like if you look at The Walking Dead, there are people that they might go along for the ride. I'm just going to call like the governor. And I'm going to go with the TV show governor because he looked less crazy than the biker dude from the comics. He looked like a bad guy, twirly mustache and all. But you look at this politician-looking guy. He has good ideals. He vocalizes that he is for the people, but in secret, what Rick and friends know is that he has a bunch of heads in jars, and his daughter's been a zombie for a really long time. He's got her chained up.
Spoiler alert.
I know, right?
I'm just kidding.
So
Go ahead, Tim.
I'm sorry. I was going to add, so you think I didn't follow the whole comic book thing, but if you think of Avengers Endgame, Thanos, from his point of view, he is the hero.
He's right. He's justified.
And he has followers, just like you said, and he has followers who he did the right thing. He's doing it for the right reasons. There are definitely people who believe that. So it is perspective, and it's an interesting thing. And I would be very curious for any of you to write your books from another perspective. I love that whole idea. Talking about last week, we were talking about Twilight and writing it from a different perspective, writing it from a follower's perspective versus the opposition, so to speak.
Oh, I want to see the entire Hunger Games series written from the perspective of Snow.
Well, that's the newest one. That's the newest book is seeing his perspective, and I'm very excited. I have not gotten that far into it. I'm about 10% in, and it is all from his perspective, and I've already learned so much about why he is the way he is, and you really understand so much, which is sad and scary.
That's a prequel, though, isn't it?
It is, but it explains his youth so that you understand why he does the things he does as an adult.
I just don't care. I hate Snow. I'm sorry. I'm a huge.
It's so funny.
And my age is showing that I don't care. I love Hunger Games. You have to read Ballad. I think it's gonna. I can understand. I don't think that we're gonna come out necessarily liking him. I haven't finished it yet. I don't think we're gonna like him anymore. It's nice to understand a little bit.
I love Haymitch. I want to.
Yes. Exactly.
When I had the hair that kind of looked like him, especially in my 40s.
And I feel like even with Haymitch, he's a person talking about that character who, he didn't really want to do much. He just wanted to be drunk because he was PTSD. There was so much there that
started, Liz.
What's that?
That's how this whole thing started.
Yes, true. Drunk. But let's get back to it, right? Drinks with authors. No, I'm just kidding. By the way, Tim, I'm sorry you missed this topic part. This will be our last one, our last Drinks with Authors for a Friday night for a little while. We're going to take a break because summer. I feel like summer, Friday at 7, we're going to want to do other things. So I'm going to try to reschedule them for other future events, and then hopefully we'll do signings and things like that, like you had yours last week, which was pretty fun. Stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. Tim and Brad were there together. It was awesome. They got to meet each other. So, yeah, there you go.
So, Liz, This is what I'm talking about. Why, where I was going with everything. This is called The Walking Dead: Rise of the Governor.
Ooh,
It
interesting.
is from the governor's perspective. You learn, like, so you go, ugh, now, but you need to read The Rise of the Governor, written by Robert Kirkman, the dude that actually doodled and wrote the comic. It develops a backstory that gives him the reason to be as ruthless and crazy as he is. Because he starts off completely normal.
Me and Heather are giving you eyes over here. We're both like,
He starts off completely normal, and then
Pushed a lot of that too, but I'm not
everything. But
heads in jars. So come on, man.
well, how does somebody get to that point? Who decides, like, hey, you know what? I'm
They
gonna have
already had a predisposition to be that point. Like is what it was.
So you come into the governor by the time he's already ceded his position of power. He has this control, and he's basically the evil Rick at this point. He's a good candidate, like back and forth. You have Rick who's running his crew, the governor running his crew. So you have two different sides, the yin and the yang. The balance is there. Reading that book, and even with Negan's kind of a dick, but the governor story is really, really messed up. Like, he goes through so much, and then he just kind of snaps.
And puts heads in jars.
Well, so so it's kind of addressed in the comic, in the even the show, but he has his brother's name. So you find out that that's his brother's name. Well, when his brother dies, he takes over his whole identity. He snapped. Well, he snaps before that, but then his brother goes. He
You're not
he
helping
has
your
his
case
daughter.
here. This guy just still doesn't sound good.
It goes pretty deep. So he has a lot of things that really just make him kind of snap. But then he assumes the role of his brother mentally, and it kind of levels him out. But he's never right. But he's just like, he can function in society, and he's charismatic, and he's confident. All these things that he never
So
was.
he's a narcissist with psychotic tendencies.
Yes.
Still a villain. Like that's honestly, actually, like
Still is a villain, but there's depth to
the
him.
psychopathic or the narcissistic tendencies, right?
Check out the book. Check it out, because it doesn't make you sympathize with him, but it makes you just go, oh, that's why he does these things. Because in the aquariums of heads, I think a relative's heads are in one of those jars.
Okay.
So it's a lot of stuff that like,
weird.
fine, and then everything just dumped on him, and he just lost it.
No,
So here's-
real quick, just to this.
Go ahead.
Actually, just it kind of hit me because I thought of that. I'm sitting here like hating him so much for how crazy he is, and he's done worse. That makes me hate him. But I was thinking about the psychopathic tendencies that we see. But then Michonne had the two zombies on the chains and walked him around.
Perspective.
Crap.
Well,
yeah,
they're
and
also-
that is tough.
Those two zombies were also mutilated.
Mhm.
But
So
Their job.
if you look at it that way, if I ran into her on the street, she is crazy. Look at Rick. How often has he been covered in blood? Dude, big guy.
Michonne, I feel like Michonne was a little bit, hers was for a different reason. That like hers was for the scent, and like she had a little bit more of like a logical reason than just here's a head in a jar.
But you don't know that. If you were to just run into her on the street without being
Oh no, yeah, you'd be like, what's going on with this crazy lady?
that's what it is with character development.
So my question, so we're talking about other people's writing. Let's talk about your writing, not mine, because I don't write. But we're gonna go down and around. Tim, talk about writing your antagonists and developing them, and what you had to do to. I mean, you've got multiple books, so tell me. Like Brad just obviously thought of something. He got really excited and just ran away.
No, I forgot to do something. Sorry.
No, you're fine. So, talk about like developing them, writing them. Where did how far do you take it? Like, are they putting heads in jars? Like, how crazy do you make them versus just like a misunderstood person or like?
Oh my god!
I mean,
Let the teacher
you know
put
what
it in jars.
I'd say that it's just people who they're not so much antagonists as people who just got themselves mixed up in the wrong thing, and because they were desperate and couldn't get their way out, and they got themselves so deep and so far that there was just no return. So they're not really, like, when you think about story and you think about how a character got to the way they are. In my story, the characters that I have, little spoiler, I mean, Principal Moss in my one story is eventually going to be ousted as a, quote, villain antagonist, but only because, but the thing is that he cares about the students, he cares about the kids, but opportunity presents him and is presented to him, and he takes it because he can't resist it. But that doesn't mean that, and I've read a lot of stories like that where a character will only go so far, but then the people they got involved in, I guess, are the true antagonists. And they become some sort of a force behind a cabal, if you will, some sort of mysterious group of people who control things and manipulate things, but we never really know who they are. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's like a gray area. When everybody that gray area, like what's okay, what's not. And once they step over that line, are they bad but not really? They just wanted money, but that's bad.
They're not so much as bad as they just did something that was not legal.
Yeah.
couldn't find themselves and couldn't find a way out, but also was not willing to turn themselves in either. So, quote, bad, but I mean, you think about the idea, like, there go I. Any one of us could be put into a situation that pushes us just across the line for whatever reason it may be, whether it's because people we care about are threatened and then we're willing to cross that line for that reason, or whatever it may be.
So I found this article. You made me bring this article back up. I found an article that's 10 essential tips for writing antagonists. And I mean, obviously I feel like you guys know all this, but it just, it's so funny hearing what you have to say and like seeing it here of, like one of them is a great antagonist believes that his motives are valid and his actions are justified. Yeah. So again, he doesn't necessarily believe that I like that. Sorry, guys. I like that they're always masculine in this. The villain is always male in this. I'm sorry. We did talk about Cruella de Vil earlier.
Elsa. Elsa.
Yes, that's true. Elsa. An antagonist, he or she is known as the villain, but need not be evil. So that's kind of, I think, true. It's not, like, actions aren't necessarily evil; they're just not legal.
They just have opposing ideals.
Yes, exactly.
You're not evil, but you're just against me.
And the number one thing is the antagonist is the character who most stands in the way of the protagonist achieving the story goal. So again, you're right. It's not necessarily evil. It just happens to be the roadblock.
Right.
So
and
who's the bad guy? Captain America or Thanos? Because Captain America is in the way of Thanos' endgame, and vice versa. Also, I plugged the name of the movie. So they're both each other's antagonists.
Yeah.
Right. So I think about just my middle school students. They get it in their heads that, oh, protagonist, pro, good, antagonist, bad, anti. I'm like, no. And the antagonist doesn't even have to be a person. The antagonist could be the hero of the character himself, the hero himself. He or she could be getting in their own way, or whatever it may be.
Oh, you missed that whole conversation earlier. We discussed this internal antagonism thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we brought up Elsa, and that was like, Frozen. Yeah, exactly, for Frozen.
Go watch Frozen.
We won't beat that dead horse then.
No, it was good. No, it was good to bring it back up. Yeah. Brad, do you have anything you need to say?
I think that you're asking like how far you go with it. I can tell you that I went pretty far with it. So I would actually have to like take a shower, rinse, and get away from it. Like I would get myself into a certain headspace where it was like, okay, I've got to stop writing this character because I'm like reaching into my own little heart of darkness here. And I knew I was like on the right track when I started having dreams about the characters themselves. I was like, this dude's not even real, and he's awesome. He's in my imagination, but he was like showing it in my dreams, and like, so that's how far I took it.
That is so funny because my husband and I, this is not, I'm sorry, it's not writing related, but it's just so eerie that you said that because he was just telling me about this reoccurring dream that he's been having. And I'm trying to not to get into too much detail, but basically it was about something that's been happening in our lives, and he's always like, he's got some guilt over it, but this dream is like, this reoccurring dream is making him realize that it's not his fault for what's happening, it's someone else's fault. And he never, like, he's taken on this guilt, and he's like, I'm kind of like washing away this guilt by thinking about this dream and analyzing that I've just projected my guilt onto this, and like I'm assuming that I'm taking on this. So it's really funny that you're talking about standing in your own way and being your own villain, but also washing it off and like taking a step back and like looking at what's really happening. So I really like that. That was a really good analogy for Ed. Like I'm literally taking a shower to wash the villain off.
No, really. Activities. Like I like to run anyway, but like running became like a metaphor for like putting distance between like that character and like I would just go for like Forrest Gump like jogs. Just
yeah.
Distance between me that moment and then like going back to it. So
that's interesting, taking that writing and making it physical, like a physical thing.
Yeah. Actually, I would feel kind of sick to my stomach at times.
Oh.
So, but anyway.
It's like immersing yourself in the character, and then it's hard to like back away because you have to give them the depth that they, I hate to say it like this, the depth they deserve as a character. You have to like really invest in them, not just kind of make them a sentence on a page, and then you have to feel that, and it just makes you feel sick. Like we get it.
Yeah. Yep.
So, go ahead, Heather.
I was gonna say the funny thing with the dreams that you guys were talking about is so all of my story ideas come from dreams. I literally will wake up because I have like the most intense, crazy dreams. When I wake up from a random dream, I'm like, that's my story, and then I just write an entire series on it. So literally every book I've ever written came from a dream. So, but the idea behind dreaming with your husband is that's actually how we process psychological issues, and we overcome them is by using that mentality or that like imagery in our dreams or whatever to kind of like be okay with them. Oh my God, I've actually studied dreaming really hard, so like
that's so. I just had a person ask me to get their daughter a dream analysis. Like she's like, do you have anything that's good for a 9-year-old for dream analysis? I'm like, I don't know, that's a little young because I feel like dreams are getting deep.
Well, I've studied them more in the scientific aspect when it comes to like night terrors and nightmares, like how we process certain things. It's just like a normal synapse in your brain, like it fires off when you're asleep to process certain things. It's a very standard psychological way to process certain things. So when he's saying he's dreaming of this character, it's because that was so against him that he had to process it and get over it, like because it was a traumatizing thing in his brain. And so when your husband's dealing with these traumatizing things in his real life, like he's just processing to get over it. I think it's interesting. Sorry.
Yes. No. But it's so interesting because like you said that your dreams, and it's kind of answering my question too. You said that you write from your dreams often. So it's, my question was basically, how are you developing and writing these characters? How do you create them? How much are you putting them into them? So what's that?
Oh, I said my villains all come from ideas. Like my villains are just the personification of an idea, and it doesn't matter how likable I try to make. Like, oh, you've read Project Dandelion, so Lark, I tried to make him likable. I don't know, like I needed him to be to take advantage of people, and I needed that to show in the first book throughout the next ones. I really needed that to show because it was a whole personification of the idea that this new world order government coming in was going to take advantage of people. So I needed to like show that in the raw state. but I wanted them to be likable. I wanted people to question like their alliances, like whether they agreed with New World Order or they agreed with like rebellious military or whatever, you know. So I was back and forth with it, and everybody hated him. And I was like, but I tried to make him likable. I tried to make him a politician. I tried to make him like comfortable, like leading and helping people, but it just never worked. So I don't know. I write bad villains currently.
Well, I'm excited to read your new one. I was just looking at it online. It looks very interesting.
It's different. Weird.
I shared links to the authors that we have here. I shared most of them that I have in stock, signed copies. I don't have Heather's yet.
Okay,
but I did share your link, the HeatherKCarson.com.
Where is your bookstore again? It's
We're in Bel Air, Maryland. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna Google that actually. See
Yeah.
how far it is. I'm gonna show up there one day.
No problem. It's probably, if I had to guess, it's about 2 hours.
I'm in Solomon area. Like Solomon's?
Yeah, you're about 2 hours.
Oh, okay, that's not far.
Yeah, it's not too bad. So
Drink
Just
with
over
me.
the road.
come on over.
Down the road here, on.
It is a toll, but you know, we're not down the ocean. But so your newest book, do you want to talk about that for a minute? Just because you did just have one come out.
So, are we talking about villains in it?
We can, but I think we're heading towards the wrap up.
Well, my villains in it were weird. I did try to throw in a very platonic villain because I needed, actually by book 3, he's super important. So it sucks putting him in there. I actually needed Tim's help with this because I thought I had made it, I didn't want to give it away. So I just kind of danced around it. But Tim's like, Tim gave me some advice, but my ARC readers were freaking out. They're like, no, wait, we couldn't guess that. I'm like, I didn't want to give it to you. I wanted to guess. So Tim gave me an idea about doing a prologue. So I did that, which actually everybody's loving now. Thank you for that advice, by the way. But so yeah, this book is very weird. It's very different. It's like a dystopian portal fantasy, science fiction meets magical realism. Like I created an entire portal technology that jumps to the spirit realm. So people can pass between like our world and the spirit world, or the spirit world where all, our dead live in this other dimension. But the problem was with that is it's like a utopian paradise, and basically humanity abandons the earth. So what's left is a very weak government, mafia-run control of, I just think North America because it was easier to focus on one continent. And so they're fighting for power controls, and in that they have orphans running for the mafia, running their dirty work in the realm. And so my main character is now fighting the system and against all of it, but she's got her own demons to deal with, and yeah, it's weird. It's really weird. It's fun. Also, I suck at elevator pictures, if you can't tell.
All right, Harry, what about you? You have so many villains.
I have all of the villains.
You cover a bunch. You're so all over the place.
So I will start with the first, and then I will end on my soon-to-be-coming villain. So my first villain was my ex. I tried to write her in a way that, so when I wrote this whole story, I didn't want it to be finger pointy, like you're the bad person. I wanted you to, it sucked too, because I had to kind of go back to how did I think when I was 15, 16, however old I was back in the day, 100 years ago. So I had to think like, I didn't, want to throw up the middle fingers and, I hate you. You're the devil. I didn't know that at the time. So how did I feel then? I was stupid, naive, and gullible. So that's where I was. And that's me looking back at me now. But where was I? So how do I write her? Do I write her blatantly like you will have to hate her? No, I give you like a play-by-play of every event that really happened, and I let you be the judge, but it just kind of unfolds where I've had people actually put the pieces together and like, she's narcissistic, there's gaslighting, there's this, there's that. I actually didn't know the term gaslighting until I put this book out. Somebody's like, oh, there's gaslighting all over this, because the prime example was she had me get into the Army. Best decision ever now, by the way. But she had me join the Army because I wasn't good enough or able to to take care of the family, which was just me and her, by the way. And then when I got enlisted, it was my fault that I'm ruining her life because I'm constantly off to training and I'm always doing this and I'm deployed. And like everybody was like, that's textbook, that's this. I'm like, honestly, I'm just telling you as it is. So by writing her as she was, I wrote a very well-rounded villain, so to speak, a non-fictional villain. But then getting into more recent Memoirs of a Crazed Mind, just because I have it sitting there, I was able to kind of delve into what if I wrote a villain and that's it? Like, that's the only character. I'm not going to have any protagonists because the protagonists will come and go. You'll have all these good-hearted people that pop into this dude's life. But are they a protagonist? Are they a victim? It kind of goes down that road. So I write the character where I had a friend of mine who's a retired police officer. He read the book, and he's just like, I have a lot of questions for you. A lot of questions. B, I also have to know, like, if you're okay. That was the other question. And 3, the other thing was, like, the way that I balanced the character out, you kind of went on this, like, ebb and flow of, like, loving and hating the guy. Because you're like, wait, he's just misunderstood. And that was just circumstantial. No, wait, that was an accident. No, he just murdered someone. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my. And then it just kind of just goes from there and just goes down that road where you're just like, by the time that you realize, like, oh, God, this guy's a bad, bad man. And you're already 5-6 chapters deep.
Real quick. Hold on, real quick. Does your wife or ex know that she's the villain in a story of yours?
She is the villain, and she's well aware that she's the villain. She's also the villain.
Know that you read a book about it, though?
It's just called My Crazy. It's called Tales from. Yeah, there you go. Tales from an Ex-Husband.
Oh, okay.
Like it is. You changed her name, but I think that's it.
I
right?
didn't put her. She is referred to as girlfriend, fiance, wife, ex-wife. Like,
and never her name, but it's public record.
I don't call her by her name, but I might refer to her as Lucifer, Satan, but I don't give her an actual name. I had to talk to like 3 different lawyer friends, and I'm just like, I have to make sure I'm okay with this because I do not want her. If you read the book, you'll be like, dude, she's going to sue you. That would be your first words. Be like, she's going to try. Because if you read that book, you will find out that she would. And she'd file on the grounds of defamation of character. But legally, I had to look into, like, what does that mean? If we go to court, if she's the prosecutor, I also go to a lot of, I have a degree in law now at this point, because I've done so many law courses. I have a minor in criminal law. She has to prove her case, meaning she has to pull up evidence that says the contrary of what I've claimed. So I have police reports and everything on standby, ready to rock and roll at the drop of a hat. That's how much of a villain she is. It has been
hippopotamus stories, man. They're so bad.
Like, we have been divorced for almost 10 years now. I've been divorced since 2011. And I kid you not, since 2011, she's popped back into my life 4 times to cause me trouble. Like every 2 years. It's like boom, 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 boom. So she makes a great villain. Her motives are, she makes a great antagonist.
PC, come on here. That is how you
because she has layers, she has ulterior motives. She doesn't feel like she's the bad guy, even though she's on her 5th husband now. So husband number 5, Liz has vanished.
Where'd she go?
Liz?
Liz,
so, yeah.
Liz, I need you.
Liz, where are you?
I'm back. Sorry.
Okay.
I clicked something. Somebody just
like
what we were using, so I was trying to find out, and then it went away. But anyways, go ahead.
Well, hey, I got to jump off soon here, but I wanted to say if you actually set up some kind of author thing, I'll drive 2 hours. I might have to bring my babies in tow.
That's okay. We'll set it up. It'll be a party. We'll have we're gonna have, for Independent Bookstore Day, we're gonna have lots of fun stuff for kids, so that would be great.
What day is that?
August 29th.
Yeah, when is that, Liv? I just heard about that. But maybe you told me.
It was supposed to be April 29th or April 25th. And then, of course, it got rescheduled. So there is a link somewhere that I will share for you guys. It's on our Facebook page and on our website. I'm still working out some of the details, but there is a link. Either way, I know I already have all your info. So all of you are already just automatically included in that when I get my act together and organize what's happening. But I am kind of being tentative because so much stuff is just being canceled for the spring even. So if I've got to make it virtual, it might still be virtual because we were supposed to do our Pop Culture Fest was also supposed to happen. That was going to be the beginning of August. God, I can't even remember. So that was supposed to be the beginning of August, and we've postponed that as well. Just not sure when we're going to reschedule that for. So all these things that I'm like hesitant to put a ton of scheduling and ideas into if we're not going to quite do it the right way. So I will let you know what we will do.
Scenario, we could have like 6 feet away little canopies around your store in the
and that's
lot,
what.
and then break from 6 feet away and say hi, and maybe somebody walks in with a mask or face shield. We'll figure it out.
And that's what really Independent Bookstore Day for me. That's what we were gonna do anyway. That was already the plan because it's August and it's gonna be hot. And I didn't want like bunches of crowds. I wanted people to be able to go around. But what we did last week with Tim was that's really what it was. It was a canopy and a table, and all the customers that came up to the door stopped and talked to him first, and then came and talked to me. He got to answer a lot of fun stuff from all my customers. But yeah, so I will work all that out and I will share. And also I will let you know that I did add, like I said, I added everyone's links in the comments. And Heather, I did add your bookshop.org link. So if you want to purchase Heather's book from me, it's not signed, but it'll still be purchased her book from me. The bookshop link is in the comments. So we will get it done. One way or the other, I would love to have you up and have all of us together and say, like, look, you can see these people online, but now you can see them in person. So I will wrap it up since you go. We are at an hour. So thank you guys so much for guys and gals. I really, really appreciate all your time for all of these lives that we've done. I really, really appreciate it, and all of the learning curves of all the like different angles and ways that we had to figure out how to do these things, and then me like disappearing and then coming back. So thank you so much, and have a wonderful night, and hope to see you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.